Shalom. First thing and foremost, I want to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Kakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone and rule well. Peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. Those in the gospel of our life and understanding of Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, wherever it may be. This is another lesson through the Spirit, just covering the third woe, World War III. As we're seeing tensions in the Middle East, or what they call the Middle East, are intensifying between Slovakia, but Iran and Israel. As we believe through the Spirit that this war will lead to even greater conflicts in what you would call the Middle East. Because for the simple fact, you're going to understand that the small hats or the JOOs are basically trying to protect their interests with destabilizing the Middle East, which, you know, between Iran and Israel, they've been in war, hell, since fucking the 50s, you know, 40s to 50s, because after Israel was established as a state, because it's not a nation, it's a state, it's a welfare state. That was bombings shortly after they was established, man. I believe Egypt bombed them, if I'm not mistaken. But going back into 1967, you got the 6-Day War. There's been nothing but conflict and turmoil in that part of the world since you small hats have occupied our land. And that's ironic because the scriptures tell you, in fact, the opposite of what was supposed to happen when these people returned back to the land. But instead, when you got into the land, more wars, more economic stability, more instability, economic instability, Slovakia, and just more instability around the world have grown more rapid since you heathens have entered the land of Israel, which that land does not belong to you. Okay, the people that's occupying the land of what they call Jerusalem or Israel today, modern day Tel Aviv, they're not the true people of the Bible. Okay, they're not the true people of the Lord. They're imposters, and they know that. So the world was basically rooting you out because of the simple fact of the deception. And this is ultimately what Yahweh Shai wants, man. Okay, this war will be the war, Lord's will, to end all wars, because I don't see a halting in both sides at this point. You know, they may declare some type of temporary ceasefire because we know how these things go. They tend to ramp up, then they die out, and they're not spoken about. Which in most cases, the Israelis, they have a blackout on truly what's happening in parts of the world. So the news that we're getting convoluted information, to say the least, of what's really transpiring over there in Tel Aviv or Gaza. You know, so they have a blackout on what's going on because they want to sway the narratives, and they don't want people to understand what's happening and that they're the fault and the primary culprit of the hell in the world, you know. So this is a video here from Redacted. It says the battle was just beginning. Colonel Dan Davis warns Israel is in real trouble. And we know that Russia has troops on standby. We know that North Korea, China, you know, parts of Africa, you know, you got Libya, you know, you got those Hamitic nations that's on standby because according to Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, it tells Russia to be a guardian to these smaller hermit nations, primarily Iran, Syria, North Korea, etc. You know, and America, you know, low key, you got Trump talking about, well, we'll know in 2 weeks if we're going to get in a war now. But they already been instigating a war because who you think is funding Israel? Who do you think that's putting out the weaponry so Israel can go to war with these other nations, man? See, America's already involved in it. They're just using proxy-backed nations to hide their hand so it don't come back to them. But overall, the Russians already know that you are involved in every major conflict on the planet Earth. So there's no secret there. All right, but I'm going to play a couple of minutes of this video. And I have a video from Kim Iverson as well. I'll claim her, by the way. I don't know if she's Filipino or she could be Northern. I don't know, but either way it go, she's gonna be added to the roster. Just a random thought, you know. Somebody may say, "Well, she ain't even all that," and that ain't the point, brother. It ain't the point. She ain't gotta be all that, you know. She just on point, you know. But anyway, let's play a couple of minutes of this video. We'll get a couple of precepts, and that'll be that.
The White House says that President Trump is trying to decide right now about a war with Iran, but he just needs a few weeks to decide. Watch.
Regarding the ongoing
And why do you need a few weeks to decide on what you're gonna do? Because that's deceit talk. They already have a plan. They're just trying to go in undetected. That's the point of them using NATO as a proxy to fund Ukraine. With America, we know that the West was funding the Ukraine regardless, but instead they wanted to use Ukraine as pretty much a proxy to pretty much be on the borders of Russia, because see, they need somebody to do their bid, because America is just not going to outright invade Iran at face value, or Russia. Just not going to happen. So if they do that, they'll send like spies or particular mercenaries, or they'll set up proxies to gather intelligence on these particular nations so they can figure out how to overthrow them covertly. And that's how this man gets down. You know, he's on his 007 shit, you know, trying to get you from within instead of just going in an all direct assault, because they don't have confidence in they don't have confidence in their military. They don't have confidence in their competency. They just don't. You know, because the scriptures say how the things of Esau been searched out. So he's totally exposed.
Situation in Iran. I know there has been a lot of speculation amongst all of you in the media regarding the president's decision making and whether or not the United States will be directly involved. In light of that news, I have a message directly from the president, and I quote, "Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks." That's a quote directly.
So why do you need 2 weeks? Okay, he's already plotting on it. Like, you don't need 2 weeks to determine if you're going to go to war or not, motherfucker. Your best interest is in Israel. Their best interest is in you. So you have to back them, because you're the only person on the planet that have the small hat's best interest, because they bought and paid for your elections, all the lobbyists and so forth. Hey, Trump was funded by these people. Biden was funded by these people. Every American president was funded by the Jewish state. Okay, that's why you have lobbyists. This is why the head of the CDC, you know, the head of the FDA, you know, all these men, they're all small hats. They're Amalekites, man. You know, Palantir, BlackRock, Vanguard, and what's the other one? What's fucking PayPal? You know, like Peter Thiel, they're all small hats, man. Okay, you're funded by the small hats, so therefore you have to pledge your allegiance to them. They bought you out. They gave you the elections, man. They bought you out, man. So you have to go and fund them, because they paid for you. They funded you. They put you in there. You know, they bagged you up, and this is the result of it. So you have to back them. And they know, oh, well, we're going to figure out. You're going to war, bro. Whether next week, 2 weeks, or next year, whenever the Spirit of the Lord moves on you devils, you're going down there. And that's going to be the end all be all. And we can't wait.
From the president for all of you today. So we'll kick it off for questions here in our new media seat. We have Eli Lake from...
Okay, so that's a TBD, right? That's a to be determined. We're just really not sure whether or not we're going to go to war. The president needs some time to cool his jets,
figure some things out.
Maybe meditate, maybe pray. Are you exhausted reading the tea leaves and then anything we're promised doesn't happen? We don't know what's happening. Well, Seymour Hersh reports just the opposite. He says today in his reporting that a war and an attack on Iran is happening within the next 48 hours over the weekend. His report is chilling and absolutely credible. Given his track record, he's a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist known for exposing the My Lai massacre, CIA abuses, the secret U.S. operations, the U.S. blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline. We trust him pretty much. Here's what he says, that what I've been told is that a war is coming. He says, this is a report on what is most likely to happen in Iran as early as this weekend, according to Israeli insiders and American officials I've relied upon for decades. It will entail heavy American bombing. I have vetted this report with a longtime U.S. official in Washington who told me that all will be under control if Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, departs. Just how that might happen, short of his assassination, is not known. There's a great deal of talk about American firepower and targets inside Iran, but little practical thinking, as far as I can tell, about how to remove a revered religious leader with an enormous following. What the F does that mean, you guys? We really don't know. He's saying that an attack is imminent. They are full on planning for regime change, but they're calling it depart. What does that mean? Depart the planet? depart, the soul departs the body? Clayton, any?
Departs, yeah, I mean, gets on a like a shuttle and like heads out somewhere. I mean, I don't exactly know. Iran, though, is ignoring Donald Trump's demand for unconditional surrender. The country's supreme leader shot down Trump's message on saying that there's no way the Islamic Republic will surrender. And the Iranian leader says the U.S. will face irreparable consequences if the military enters the fray. The Ayatollah also said 6 days into this war that the battle begins now. The battle is just beginning. Is it just talk? Is it just bluster? Or are we in for hell on earth as the night unfolds?
Nah, we're getting there, all right? We just, there's a stalemate. Well, I won't say a stalemate, but there's a halt and things escalating because we're still waiting on a chip. But even prior to the chip being released, you're still going to have the puzzle pieces that's being put into play to set up prophecy, man, because once the chip is in, everything can just roll smoothly. See, this is the wars and rumors of wars, and the scriptures go into that, the beginning of sorrows, but we still have to wait for the downfall or the economic downgrade of Babylon the Great in this digital system, which, I mean, that's in the process as we speak. So, we can see a digital system as quickly as another year, 2026 can be the start of everything going left, but we just have to wait and see. It's all up to Yahweh Shem Shai, but overall, this place won't be destroyed and our deliverance will not come until this place is totally digital, meaning the chip. And by the time that happens, the war would already be escalating. So I say by the time the chip comes, the nukes, they already be talking about using nuclear weapons, and that's how quick this thing is going to intensify. All right, so this is the book of Revelation. Damn, not Revelation, Zephaniah 3. That's the spirit. I got to go to Revelation now. But that's the spirit of Zephaniah 3. And I'm going to start at verses 8. It says, therefore, wait ye upon me, says Yahweh, until the day I rise up to the prey. It says, for my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them my indignation, even all my fierce anger. For all the earth should be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. Okay, this is going into the third woe. That's why the world is on alert right now, because, I was watching a video and the brother put it out there. He said that he had information on somebody that was in the military and how they're pretty much on standby and ready to go to the Middle East, the American troops. So, yeah. And when shit happens, they're going to have to bring back a draft, man. And I speculate that a draft is just going to come back abruptly because, they're going to realize that the numbers are not meeting. And when this shit gets real, I think they're just going to start grabbing people up. I don't think it's going to be like a formal draft at first. Well, it may be at first, but when they don't get enough people that's going to register the draft for the draft, then that's when they're going to start grabbing people up against their will and sending them over there, man. And I can very well see that taking place. You see, if they're not already doing it. But it says the earth, for all the earth should be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. So this is where we're at. Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai is rousing up the beast system, and the bear, which is Russia. They're going to end up clashing because that's what the scriptures say,
So what we've seen so far hasn't really been a battle at all, just like an opening salvo. I spoke to some Israeli friends today in Tel Aviv, former IDF, who said it's about to get very dangerous. Every night they're sleeping in a bunker, children going to sleep. They said, my children don't even know that there's a war because around 8:30 every night, that's when the war starts. And that's when we put them to bed inside the bunker.
Can you imagine?
I mean, this is where things are right now. You have civilians, of course, who are going to be caught collaterally in all of this. That's what's happening.
And this was done to them by Netanyahu, by the Netanyahu government that they do not support,
right,
that attacked Iran and then declared a state of emergency in their own borders and locked down the airspace so that nobody can leave, using their own people as fodder.
So what we've seen so far hasn't really been a battle at all, I guess. What does he actually mean by that the battle is just beginning? Does he mean that China is coming, that Russia is coming? A few hours ago, China did send their ships, 2 electronic surveillance ships, the A-55, the A-15A, to the Persian Gulf. China has very deep ties to Iran and is very worried, of course, that their proxy would be eliminated. They have massive deals, the Belt and Road Initiative, massive oil deals. Is China going to sit idly by while one of their main partners is eliminated. Overnight, Iran launched multiple missile strikes into the heart of Tel Aviv, striking military targets. They also hit Tel Aviv's largest hospital, which sits right next to military facilities. Of course, that's the dirty truth in all of this, right? That most of Israel's most important intelligence and military targets sit next to civilian infrastructure.
In Tel Aviv, I believe that's the capital, if I'm not mistaken. Tel Aviv is basically modern day Ashdod, man. The scriptures say a bastard should dwell in Ashdod, man. And that's talking about you heathens, because the heathens have been occupying our land. Okay, since we've been kicked out of the land in 70 AD, the heathens have been occupying our land, man. So let's go from here to Revelation 8, and I'm going to start at verses 13. It says, "And I beheld, and I heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe," okay, which woe represents destruction, "to the inhabitants of the earth by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the three angels that are yet to sound." Okay, so going into the the world wars, respectively, World War III, the third woe. All right, Revelation 9, and I'm gonna start at verses 12. It says, "One woe is past, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter," which goes into the world wars. But it says, "And the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar which is before the Most High, saying to the sixth angel which had the trumpet, Loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. And the four angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year for to slay a third part of men." Okay, so there you go, man. It says a third part of men being the Edomites, being the Western hegemony. So, yeah.
Their version of the Pentagon that was hit last week sits next to civilian high-rise buildings. Civilians, of course, are good human shields. Israel doesn't want you to know the extent of its damage or any of the damage that it's inflicting. The government has issued an unprecedented order restricting Israeli media from publishing details about the war, like the videos that you're seeing right here on your screen, being banned by the IDF.
Yep. They got blackouts, man. That shows you that they control everything. See this IDF media blackout. Google is so filtered now. Google ain't gonna tell you anything. Like you'd be surprised if you even get any semblance of truth on Google. If it's mainstream, you get it. But anything else, like Google is not what it used to be. It's just not gonna give you the right information. It says Iran's internet blackout leaves public in dark, creates uneven picture of war with Israel. It says 1 year in Gaza, how Israel orchestrated a media blackout on a region at war. That shows you that they are in charge because they control everything, because they control all the media. Like every news outlet you get in America and around the world, for the most part, are owned by the small hats. So they're able to put on there what they want you to see and what they don't want you to see. And they give you all this filtered information, man. It's just like all of the... You can't really get everything you need. This is from Reuters. It says UN says full internet blackout in Gaza, paralyzing aid operations. Because remember what happened in Gaza, they was starving them out. They was pretty much killing those people in cold blood, starved them out, and dangling a carrot before their face. That's only a devil would do something like that. But it reads here, and it says, "And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them, and thus I saw the horses in a vision." And it reads, it says, "Of them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire, and of jacinth, and of brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouth issues fire, smoke, and brimstone." That's the missiles. "And by these three was the third part of men killed, and by the fire, and by smoke, and by brimstone, which issued out of their mouths," man, going into the missiles. You see? So, Jeremiah 49, we're going to bring it home with that.
Not allowing you to see a lot of this unfolding in and around Tel Aviv specifically. The Tel Aviv, the Israeli Stock Exchange was hit. Interceptor missiles fall. Here's the Israeli Stock Exchange that was hit. interceptor missiles that are falling into civilian areas. So these are Israel's own Iron Dome interceptor missiles, which are going right through the roofs of civilians in their own neighborhoods. They don't want you to see that. They don't want you to see civilian deaths. The IDF military censor applies to Israeli media and any foreign media operating inside of Israel. So like if you're a Fox News reporter, if you're an MSNBC reporter, anything, like you're being told basically what you're allowed to show and not allowed to show at this point. The censorship rule extends beyond Gaza, banning Israeli press from publishing stories that could damage national morale or aid the enemy. In other words, don't show what's really going on here, the fog of war. But this just popped up in Tel Aviv, calling on President Trump to finish the job. This was a big banner rolled out right across Tel Aviv today, which shows finish.
See, the least of the flock should draw them out. They're calling for America, man. This thing is, as we read in Zephaniah, as the Lord's determination, this thing is going to go exactly how the Most High wants it to go. Right? You heathens, you don't have a say-so of a damn thing. Let's go here. What is it? Proverbs. Hold on. King. This is a real reach right here. But I always forget that precept is in Proverbs and goes into what the Most High, how He works on the hearts of the king. He turn it whatsoever He will. I always forget where that's at. Even when I write that precept down, I always seem to forget where it is. So, it's these bodies, man. They remember what they want to remember. Let me just do this. Still a bit of a reach, but bingo, Proverbs 21:1. I knew it was that. It says, the king's heart is in the hand of Yahweh, as the rivers of water, and He turn it whatsoever He will. Right. So regardless on what they say, Trump be like, well, look, I'm not getting involved in that war. Okay, that's what you think. The Most High is controlling you and what you gonna do. All right, you have no say-so on whether you gonna wake up or whether you gonna go left or right. You're being controlled by Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah, buddy. No matter what you say. Daniel 4:17, it says, this matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent and the living, that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and give it to whomsoever He will, and set it up over the bases of men. So the Lord is in control of everything. You know, He's the puppet master, and we are the puppets, which cuts the free will ordeal.
Finish the job. All right. Well, if you guys know anything about me, you know I love a great story. Heck, that's why I became a journalist, because I love listening to other people's stories. That's how we learn things in life. And nothing goes better with a story than sitting with friends and having a great bottle of wine, a great glass of wine. You don't have to drink the whole bottle.
That shit.
Wondering if you could use your FSA for that? At FSA Store, everything is guaranteed FSA eligible. Find surprisingly eligible.
Stretched thin. Donald Trump campaigned. Let's be honest about something no one in the Trump administration wants to admit. The people who say, make America great again, who say they want to put America first, are doing the exact opposite. Because you can't put America first while cheering on a war that destroys another country and sends millions of refugees pouring into the West, including into the United States. Every single war we fight or fund comes with a refugee crisis attached. Every missile we send, every regime we help topple, every airstrike we applaud, it doesn't stay over there. It comes back in the form of migrants fleeing collapsed cities, ruined economies, and endless chaos. And yet the people, often the MAGA crowd, screaming to close the borders, are often the same ones cheering for this war. And the liberal Democrats, by the way, who decry the rise of right-wing populism in Europe, which is a direct reaction to the migration crisis, well, they, of course, support war too. Well, you can't bomb Iran one day, then complain about illegal immigration the next. You can't send weapons to Israel or start World War III and then act confused when our borders are overwhelmed and our communities are stretched thin. Donald Trump campaigned in 2016 on ending endless wars. He was right. But now he's backing Israel to the hilt, surrounding himself with war hawks, talking about strikes on Iran.
Yeah, because he's a hypocrite, because just years ago when Obama was in office, he was condemning the war, with them going to war with Iran. He was condemning that. You know what I'm saying? He was against it. Now all of a sudden, now he's backing it. See, that show you that these politicians and these presidents, they're all paid for by Israel lobbyists, man. They're all bought and paid for. All of them.
And refusing to stand against the people pushing us into another regional disaster. That's not America first. That's neocons first. That's Israel first. And if we go down this path again, it's not going to make America great. It's going to break us. So let's look at the facts, not the spins, not the slogans. Let's look at the actual history of what happens when America gets involved in another Middle Eastern war. The Iraq War from 2003 to well, actually, let's back up. Let's go ahead and back up a little bit further back from there. Let's go ahead and look at the when we toppled Iran the first time around. What happened there? Over 50,000 Iranians fled to the U.S. after the fall of the Shah in 1979. Today, over 500,000 Iranians have resettled into the United States, many from that wave and from subsequent waves. And after the recent Israeli strikes on Tehran, over 100,000 Iranians have already fled major cities just within the last few days. So if war breaks out, conservative estimates are that about 2 to 5 million Iranians could be displaced in the first year alone. And where do you think they're going to go? Where are they going to go? Their families. We have 500,000 Iranians already in the United States. So they have family members. They're going to reunite. They're going to bring their families into the United States. You don't want all those refugees. You don't want all those migrants. How about you stop cheering for war? The Iraq War, from 2003 to 2011, there were over 4 million Iraqis who were displaced. 2 million fled abroad. 130,000 of those were resettled in the United States between 2007 and 2014. So a lot of those Iraqis went into Europe. And a lot of you talk about, oh, look at Europe. We don't want to become the next Europe. Look at what's happening to them. The UK is not even recognizable anymore. I'm hearing this all the time. Europe isn't recognizable. It's no longer Europe because of all these migrants that have flooded in. Well, that is because our Iraq war, which Europe supported, which they probably shouldn't have in hindsight, it's their own fault. They shouldn't be supporting our wars. But then again, we've got all of our bases in their territories. We've got NATO. They don't really have a choice. America could just wage war with Europeans at any time, and we're already on their soil. So they have to pretty much do whatever we say.
Yeah, and that's what all this border crisis shit was about. Like the scriptures goes into how we'll fill thee with men as caterpillars, and they should rise up a shout against thee. Yeah. So all those nationalists that came over here, a lot of them are fucking sleeper cells too. Remember that. That's why the scriptures tells us that roughly paraphrasing it, that the Assyrians, they should waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians. You already got our Iranians over here already plotting. So it's already set up. Stage is already being set. But this is the book of Jeremiah 49. And I'm going to start at verses. Let's go down a little bit. Verses 10. It says, but I've made Esau bare. I've uncovered his secret places, and he should not be able to hide himself. Yeah, you've been exposed, man. Okay, you can't hide yourself no more. You've been exposed that you're not the people that you're claiming to be. And everybody know that you ain't nothing but a race of damn devils. It says, and his seed is spoiled, and his brethren and his neighbors, and he is not. Leave thy fatherless children, and I'll preserve them alive, and let the widows trust in me. But for thus says Yahweh, behold, they whose judgment was to not drink of the cup have surely drunken, and thou art he that shall altogether go unpunished. It says, thou shalt not go unpunished, but thou shalt surely drink of it. That cup is slavery, because we've drunk of it. But it says, for I've sworn by myself, says Yahweh, that Basra should become a desolation, and a reproach, and a waste, and a curse. And that's going into America, man, not actual Basra. It says, and all the cities there should be perpetual waste. How many cities are in Basra, modern day Basra, even though that harbors the land of Edom? But how many actual inhabited cities that civilization is up and thriving in that parts of the world? But when you look at modern day Basra, hell, you got cities all over the place. You got Chicago, you got LA, you got New York, you got New Jersey, you got Dallas, you got Houston, Sacramento, Atlanta, you got Miami, Orlando, and the list goes on. Kansas City, St. Louis. These are those cities that's going to become perpetual wastes. And it says, and I heard the rumor from Yahweh, and an ambassador is sent unto the heathen, saying, gather ye together and come against her and rise up to battle. And this is what we're seeing. The nations are rising up against Esau. It says, for lo, I will make thee small among the heathen, and despised among men. And that's why everybody is ripping you small hats. And like every thread you go on, everybody is realizing and they're saying, well, Israel is the enemy. Israel is the enemy. Everybody is knowing your MO at this point. Okay, you can't hide. The world has woken up to your reign of terror, E. You know, and you're trying to hide yourself and you're trying to justify yourself in the wickedness that you're perpetuating. But the world, they've had enough for you, man. And Yahweh Shai has had enough of your ass. You know, so you out of here. That's what it says, and despised among men. Nobody likes them small hats. I mean, even the average Edomite is tired of the small hats. Hell, your own small hats are tired of the small hats. Like in Israel, hey, them small hats in Israel, hey, they want this guy, Netanyahu, you know who. They want his ass out of there, man. They want him brought up on war charges because they understand that he's responsible for mass genocide. Okay, he was calling for the genocide of Iran going back into the 90s, man. Talking about, they are days and weeks from the weapons of mass destruction. We have to stop them before they destroy and destabilize the Middle East. That's the shit this nigga's been screaming the last 25 years. But yet, they ain't got a nuclear weapon, man. I mean, they have the programs and they can build one, but they just want it for, just to have it just in case. They're not planning on using it on the world. Everybody ain't you, Esau. Okay, everybody don't want to just destroy life because it exists. Like some people actually like to live and they like to see some people just like nature. They're not just at war with life itself. Like this man will come down and he will cut a whole forest down to be justified on building a fucking Starbucks, man. Like I'm still pissed off that the shit that they're doing across the street from my crib, man. Every time I ride past, I get pissed off because they literally cut down our front. I'll tell a story every week because I have to look at the shit every damn day. I literally look out my living room window and now it's nothing but a parking lot where a fucking coffee shop in that building, a Bank of a community, or what do you call that place? The Community America Credit Union. Like we had a whole slew of forest. Like, and I could look out my living room window and it's nothing but beautiful nature. The trees all vibrant, just beautiful. And yet they come and they cut the shit down and put a goddamn coffee shop and a fucking bank in our backyard. Like, who wants to look at that? You know what I'm saying? That's why the scriptures say they should build, but I should throw down. I mean, even if they did decide to put the businesses right here, they didn't have to be justified on cutting everything. They had more than enough room to build what they need to build without cutting down trees just to do nothing with it. So that proves that this man is anti-life, man. But yet he's afraid that when other nations get nuclear capabilities, they're going to shoot him on his ass because he's the one that's guilty. He's the one that's against the wall. That's what a guilty person would do. You see? Anyway, it says, the terribleness have deceived thee, and the pride of thy heart, O thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, that holdest the height of the hill, which shows that you're the governor of the world. It says, though thou should make thy nest as high as the eagle, that's a sign that this is talking about you Edomites, I will bring thee down, thus says Yahweh. But also Esau shall be a desolation, and everyone that goeth by should be astonished, and shall hiss at all the plagues thereof. And as in the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah, and the neighboring cities thereof, says Yahweh, no man should abide there, neither shall a son of man dwell in it. So, yeah, Yahweh Shai is getting ready to totally make an end of you devils, man, finally. But anyway, with that, all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh Shai. Lord, is where you're edified. To the next lesson. Shalom.